everybody, and welcome to another episode of Picks by Nationals. This time I'll be featuring the Turbo Toad deck, which actually won the German Nationals. And I had a look at this deck, and I have to say that it's still very strong, even with Fates Collide. And this will be the first episode with where we'll be featuring decks with including the Fates Collide expansion, because for the further nationals this expansion will be legal. So now we'll be focusing on decks featuring those cards. Let's jump right into it. As you might already have seen, the deck list already includes 60 cards. Because I'll do it today, I'll have a kind of different approach compared to the other videos, because I won't show you how to build the deck featuring diverse tech cards depending on which matchup you expect. So I'll just show you this list and then tech cards which I think could fit in this deck, and you have to decide yourself how you want to build a deck. But that's the list I would play if I play in nationals in the next few days. But our nationals are still 4 weeks ahead, so I'll have enough time to tweak it a little. And but for now, I think this list is pretty solid. I'll explain some few things about it. Let's start with the Pokemon. I have 3 Shaman EX because and 1 Hooper. We can do this together because I think it's if you start 1 Shaman X, it's super important to have at least 2 in the deck, because if you prize 1, then you have just 1, and you still have 1 left in the deck. And if you start 1 and prize 1 and only play 2 in total, you're left without any Shamans. And the 1 Hooper is already great because, as you can see, we have many EXs, many targets for Hooper. And I think that's the best way to run it because consistency is king. That's why I chose to put in 3 Shamans. 2 Articuno because it's good to have a non-EX attacker. Most of the time I play 1 down on the bench and discard the other, but it's easier to get them in play if you play 2, and I think there's no reason to play less than 2, except if you are about to put in some cheeky tech cards and you need to find space for them, but I think 2 is the perfect count. Same goes for the Manafi EX. Manafi is kind of gives you flex, is the most important card for flexibility in this deck because of Aqua Tube. The ability is really good and really important to switch around different attackers or the same attacker, but between 2 different attackers, because with Rough Seas you can heal them and go with another one in the offensive and just let the first attacker rest on the bench, heal itself, and then cycle the attackers. And Manafi is essential, and therefore we don't want to whiff it. We want to play it turn 1 if possible, and we don't want to prize it, so we play 2 of them. Also, it's a great attacker again in the Trevenant matchup because Trevenant sprays around damage and you heal 30 damage from each of your bench Pokemon. With Rough Seas, you're able to heal 60 damage from your Pokemon in 1 turn. So that's pretty huge there. And of course, we run 3 Seismitoad EXs. It's our main attacker. Quaking Punch, OP, Grenade Hammer, also very good synergy with Rough Seas. I think I don't have to explain much else about this card. We play 3 energy switches because we want to be flexible, especially in turn 1. This card is really important because if we start, we don't play any DCs, so we need to get, and every attacker here. Attacks with 2 energy at least. Um, I mean, Articuno has chilling side, but that doesn't have any damage output, so we need to get 2 energies in play onto one attacker on the first turn without playing DC, so we play energy switch and max elixir to put down energies as fast as possible and transfer them to the attacker of our choice. Then the Startling Megaphone. I think the Startling Megaphone is a great addition for the Night March matchup because the moment you flip Seismitoad, your opponent, if he plays Night March, um, will throw down Fighting Fury Bells as fast as they can because they fear that they can't play them anymore in the further game state. So they throw them down and hope that you can't discard them. Most of the time, they will assume that you only play Xerosic to discard tool cards. So they feel safe on putting them down in one turn. But if you play Megaphone, you discard them all at once, and that's super good because Pumpkaboo with Fighting Fury Belt can be really annoying if you play. If you go for the Seismitoad route because you do 40 damage per turn, so you would free hit a Pumpkaboo with Fighting Fury Belt, and that's not optimal. Also, you can one hit a Joltik without any Fighting Fury Belts, so I think Megaphone is really good. Super Rod is in here because it's such a good card in the late game if you want to recycle attackers or energies or both. Also, if you play Super Rod in the late game for 3 energies, for example, you higher the odds of getting Max Elixir so immensely that it really pays off in the late game. In the early game, of course, there's not much sense in it, but if you don't draw into it too early, Super Rod is just really good. Yeah, for Trainer's Mail because why not? Yeah, we play 4 Max Elixir free energy switch, which we want to hit early as possible. So Trainer's Mail is just really good in this deck. Same goes for the 4 Ultra Balls and the 4 Versus Seekers. Of course, we play 4 Professor Sycamore, 1 N, 1 Judge as our draw supporters, and then as an addition we have 4 Ultra Balls, 4 Trainer's Mail, 3 Shaman, and 1 Hooper EX, which we can draw into in our first turn. So this deck is really consistent, and we just want to go max consistency here with the 4 Trainer's Mail, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 VS Seeker. So let's go on to the supporters. We play 1 AZ. AZ is just super good for even more flexibility. If you in the first turn even, yeah, if you start with, let's say, Articuno, and you play Ultra Ball for Hooper, you search your deck for let's say Shaman, Manafi, and Seismitoad, and you put down an energy onto Seismitoad and then a Max Elixir onto Seismitoad, and then you can just can AZ the active and put Seismitoad in the active spot without attaching energy to the Pokemon which was in the active spot previously, which in this case would have been Articuno. So AZ is just really good. Also, you can pick up Shaman and use Setup once again. You can pick up Hooper and use Soundrill Ring once again. You can energy switch away the energies from a damaged Pokemon and then AZ it and remove the damage. Yeah, really good synergy, really good card in this deck. Also, if your Trevenant opponent plays Wobbuffet and tries to Lysander a Hooper, and then your Manafi X's ability doesn't work anymore because of Wobbuffet, and then you just play AZ to get rid of the Hooper in the active spot, it's really good. Most of you might be wondering why I play Judge if N is legal. Judge is really important in my opinion in the Greninja matchup because Greninja is a little bit inconsistent in the early turns, and if you Judge them and Quaking Punch them, or most of the time you want to attack with Tri-Edge in this matchup to get early and cheap prices. Judge kind of hinders them to get their setup, and if they don't set up, they have a really hard time against this deck. Two Lysander is pretty standard. I think there's not much to say about it. Yeah, it's pretty common that you use Lysander for stalling while attacking with Quaking Punch, just to buy some turns, buy some time, and just in general, Lysander is really good. Cheap Shaman EX knockouts with Grenade Hammer. Yeah, I already talked about N. N is legal again, and N is just another draw supporter, which also can disrupt the opponent in the late game. So yeah, there is no reason not to play N. For Sycamore, of course. For Rough Seas, you could play less Rough Seas, but I think 4 is cool because Trevenant is a thing. I think Trevenant is actually really strong. I don't get why not many people play it. Also because I think that Yveltal is not a good deck in standard, but that's just my opinion. So I expect many Trevenants in the metagame over the next few weeks. So Rough Seas is for Rough Seas, just to higher the count is just really good and really important in my opinion. Also, the Rough Seas is just sick in this deck because, as I already said, you just can switch around attackers, be flexible, heal them. Yeah. Then Fighting Fury Belt, of course, really important in this deck too. Against Night March, if you do Quaking Punch and uh, with a Fighting Fury belted Seismitoad EX, it most of the time survives 2 to 3 turns and knocks out 2 Night Marches. And then you're really fine because they still can play item cards. Also, it's extremely important for Articuno. As I already said, Articuno is mainly for the Greninja matchup because in the Greninja matchup you want to get Tri-Edge going as fast as possible to knock out those Froakies and Frogadiers. And speaking of the Frogadiers, they have 70 HP. And if you put on the Fighting Fury Belt onto the Articuno, you still only need 1 heads out of 3 coin flips to knock out the Frogadier, and you take 2 prices on the Frogadier, which is just super ridiculous. And yeah, of course, we play 12 energies because 12 energies in this deck with 4 max elixir, with slightly high attack cost. I definitely wouldn't play less than 12 energies. It's just super good. So that's the long introduction. I have to admit, the long introduction for this deck. But now I'll just show you some tech cards which you could add. As I already said, it's up to you how to tweak this deck. That's my list. I would play it like this, but there are of course some cards which you can add, and which I already thought about adding. But oops, you could add a Judge, for example, because Judge for the Greninja matchup, it's really good, and also if you Quaking Punch and play a Judge in addition, it's just so strong. So there is definitely reason to play a second Judge, but for me, I think the one is fine. You can also play Delinquent. You play a high stadium count anyway, so one to discard, well, 1 stadium with Delinquent doesn't hurt you too much, and it's Delinquents just has this surprise factor which I really like. The thing why I don't play it is because I play Seismitoad, and with Seismitoad's Quaking Punch attack, your most of the time your opponent's hand size will be filled with useless trainer cards, and if you play Delinquent, then they just discard 2 useless trainers, which they don't need anyway, and you wasted your supporter for the turn. So I'm really fond of Delinquent in not in decks which don't focus on on trainer lock. But you can definitely play Delinquent here just because the surprise factor is so good. Also, if you the card is great in this deck if you attack with Quaking Punch, Quaking Punch, Quaking Punch, and then and suddenly they have 3 or fewer cards in their hand, and then you can play Delinquent and put them to top deck mode, and then you can put on pressure with Grenade Hammer, and they just have to rely on their top deck and what to draw. So yeah, I can see Delinquent in here, but for right now, I made the decision not to throw it in there. What I also really like in this deck is Parallel City, because most of the time you will set up with a Pokemon active, let's say Articuno, Manafi, or Seismitoad, and then you play your Ultra Ball for your Hooper, and Hooper goes for Manafi, Seismitoad, and Shaman, and then your bench will be Seismitoad, Shaman, Hooper, Manafi, and Articuno, or another Seismitoad. And with Parallel City, you can kick the Hooper and the Shaman. So that's really good against Trevenant too, but Rough Seas is also very good against Trevenant, so you can debate whether playing this or that. But Parallel City is also great against Greninja because it also has a surprise factor. If they don't expect this, they will thin their deck out with Rough Seas, so they will discard the Rough Seas because you also play it, and then you can put down the Parallel City and they do 20 less damage, which is really good against this deck. So I can definitely see Parallel City in here too. If I were to play Parallel City, I'd cut one Rough Seas because 5 stadiums would be too much, definitely. You can also add another energy switch if you want. Whoops. You can also add another energy switch if you want, but to be fair, the card is really good in the first turns, or even only in the first turn. If you want to, but if you want to higher your probability to attack in the first turn, you can play for energy switch, but I think there are definitely more important cards to put in than a 4th energy switch. For the Pokemon, if you expect many Mega Rayquaza, you can play a Regice. Because of Resistance Blizzard, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by Pokemon EX. If they don't play Zoroark and you attack with Resistance Blizzard once and you don't bench too much stuff besides the Regice, you have a really easy game. You can also Lysander things like Shaman and then Lysander it again and take 2 knockouts. And Regice is very good in the Mega Rayquaza matchup, but I can't see much use besides the Mega Rayquaza matchup, so I didn't put it into my list. So what you can also play is Aegislash-EX, which we already have here. This is just against the Westbrook and Wildplum matchup. You just put it in and you bench it, and then you put it into the active spot, and the Westbrook and Wildplum player probably is about to scoop because there is no way around Aegislash. Lysander, Hexmaniac, if they do, they play only a one-off, and they don't play Versus Seekers because of their Wildplums, of course. So Aegislash, if you expect many Westbrook and Wildplums, which I don't do because I don't think their deck is good, put in an Aegislash-EX. What you can also do is add a Giovanni. You can add a Giovanni because against the Night March, it's also against the Night March matchup, mainly because if you Quaking Punch for 40 and play a Giovanni, you do plus 20 and you can knock out a Palm Kaboo in one hit. So that might become in handy in some situations, but I think the variance in this card is too big to include it. So, but I definitely gave it made my thoughts into it because it can be good, but I think most of the time you'll just play another supporter rather than Giovanni. Yeah, those are the tech cards which I really like. which I also thought about. But this is the list in general. I came up with this 60 cards. You can, of course, feel free to copy it, to test it, to what you would like to do with it. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Stay tuned for the next episode. There will be more with Fates Collide now legal. So stay tuned, and I see you guys next time.